Let's look at example 3 from this section, which is a little more complicated, but you can still use the same principles to solve it. So they start out with root 48 x squared y squared. Okay? Well, the first thing we want to do is split this into its pieces, the number, and then each variable by itself. So this is the square root of 48 times the square root of x squared times the square root of y squared. All right? The product of square roots property works for as many products as you've got. I could keep adding variables, z cubed or whatever, c to the fourth, and we could still split it up into all those pieces. Here, well, the square root of a quantity squared is that number, so the square root of y squared is just y. Square root of x squared is just x. We worked out, as it happens, the square root of 48 last time, but I'm going to show you how we can still do it even if we don't happen to choose the right combination the first time. So I'm going to say this time, square root of 48, well, hey, what if I said this was the square root of 2 times the square root of 24, right? Because splitting something in half is usually the easiest thing to do, and lots of people default to it. Well, then I have to simplify square root of 24, so I'm going to say, well, again, right, this is the square root of 2 times the square root of 12, right? And then 12 is root 3 times root 4. Well, what I have here is I know what to do with the square root of 4. That's 2, so I know that. But where'd my other 2 go? Well, it's right here. If you remember back to, I believe it was section 8.5. Could be 8, no, it was 8.6, wasn't it? The square of the square root property told you that the square root of any x times the square root of x is equal to x. So the root 2 times root 2 is 2. Right? So that's gone. That became a 2. This is gone, became a 2. And what we're left with is 2 times root 3 times 2, which is, just like I did last time, 4 root 3. And then that would be times x times y, or 4 root 3xy. Note that the x and the y would not be under the radical. They would still be after the square root here, because you always want to put numbers in front of variables. But if you were to write the whole thing out like they started out, like this, what you would have would be, so here's the big bad final answer here, 4 root 3 xy. You just got to make sure you stop the radical after the 3. It's not covering up the x and y, because those, we got rid of the radicals when we simplified them up here. But the variables do still go behind the number. All right.